Welcome. This is the School District of Prescott Board of Education Annual Meeting. The Board of Education and School District Administration welcome our residents to the budget hearing and annual meeting on Wednesday, September 24th. During the budget hearing, you'll be informed of the proposed budget, which is based on estimated costs and budgetary changes that either have or will take place during the next year during the biennium budget passed by the Wisconsin legislature. And just so this is not a regular meeting, it's run by the people and it's for the people. So I'm going to go through the guidelines for addressing the assembly and the chair. If you want to address the assembly, please just raise your hand. It says please stand, but just raise your hand and wait for the chair to call on you. Then identify yourself and the name, including the municipality in which you reside. If you're making a motion, ensure that the clerk has the motion correct. Once the motion has been made and seconded, we request that whoever speaks in favor of the motion be followed by someone who is opposed and vice versa as we talk through it if there's any. I don't think we're gonna have that problem tonight, but I'm just speaking it in case others join. Votes will be decided by voice vote, and matters pertaining to specific individuals or sensitive subjects may be tabled. So thank you, and at this time, we can move forward to select the chair. The guidelines for selecting the chair. Oh, right. Let's do that first. Let's go to Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into the electing a chairperson. Helen, would you care?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we will now elect a chair, and any voting member of the audience can make a nomination. Nominations do not require a second. I will ask 3 times for additional nominations and then close the nominations. You will then vote on the person nominated. If there's anybody have any questions on this, I think we'll just, you nominate somebody, second it. There is no second, I'm sorry. Just nominate somebody and then I'll ask for other nominations, close it, and then we'll have a vote.
I nominate Mike Prescott as chair.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? There we go. All right, voting for Mike Matzik as chair of the annual electors meeting. All in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I will gladly chair the meeting. Thank you, Josh. And let's move into the agenda. We are on item 4, adopt the agenda. Anything that we need to add? Does everybody have a copy of the agenda? If not, you can go request one from Courtney over there. We would, after you're done reviewing it, just make a motion to adopt it or ask for modifications. Anybody care to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved. Michael Smolsky, Oak Grove.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other dialogue? All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries, thank you. We'll move on to item 5 is review the 2024 annual meeting minutes. And I don't know if people have copies of that. Is everybody have
I'm
copies?
working on projecting it.
Okay.
You want me to do this? You want me to do this?
No, just if we won't read the minutes out loud, just review them, and then when we're ready to make a motion, please make a motion to adopt or to approve the minutes from the 2024 annual meeting. Doesn't say we have to approve them though.
No, you don't. You don't approve them.
We don't have to approve them.
Because they're a year old. They just get published.
Okay. Any questions on the minutes from last year? We don't need to make a motion to approve the minutes. If not, I'll move on. Okay, we're gonna move on. We are now on item 6, reports, and we will do an update on the district progress, and I'll turn it over to you, Michael.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to come in and give a little or short version of what I've been talking about over the last couple of school board meetings, but just the annual progress of the school district. One of the big things that we enacted last year, lost connectivity. Let me recycle my note here. There we go. All right, one of the big things that we looked at last year was building thinking classrooms. That was an initiative that we kicked off last year with our K-12 staff. We're in year 2 of that. And one of the reasons how we got to building thinking classrooms and talking about the thinking that's going on in our classroom is over the last decade, we've been working through the teaching and learning department on what is the daily desired experience we want both for our students and for our staff. We've worked with our PLC leaders and with all of our staff to better define and refine what would that look like. And we've landed on a visible learning experience that we want to have where we can see, we can hear, and we can feel the learning that's going on in our classrooms. So building thinking classrooms, what this does for us is it gets kids thinking more. Research shows about 20% of the students are thinking 20% of the time in a traditional classroom. And it's not to say kids aren't thinking more than that, but the deep thinking that is needed in order to build their own knowledge. So these practices that we are looking at and investing in and practicing within our classrooms get more kids thinking, they think deeper, and they think longer. And that's really what we're focusing on. And it looks a little different in every classroom because of the thinking that is required. We have a great building thinking classroom team. Jen Langer at the first grade level, Sarah Score at grade 4, Nathan McFeeters is a math teacher at the middle school, Justice Lehman is an English teacher at the middle school, Kayla Kinnaman is a high school math teacher, and Cam Myers is a high school science teacher. So as you can see, this isn't just the resource that we're using is building thinking classrooms in a mathematics classroom, but this isn't just mathematics. It really appeals to all of our classrooms. And again, it doesn't always fit everything that we do, and that we're not trying to make it fit either. We're trying to look at what's the thinking. So over the last 2 summers, we've been blessed that the school board has supported sending people to the National Building Thinking Classroom Conference, where the entire conference is all about thinking in the classroom. And this last year was in July of 2025, and appreciate that we were able to send staff to that, and they're willing to give up their summer to go and do some learning, and then bring that learning back to us here at Prescott. And with the light here, it's a little hard to see, but here is the Prescott School District staff working on a building thinking classroom task, something similar that we ask kids to do. We have staff going through the same routines and repertoires and learning how it impacts them as a learner, so that way they can relate it better to the students in their classroom. So these pictures are from this summer's professional development. Here we have a group around a whiteboard working together. Here we have a large group, and Kayla Kinnaman is in the middle here, leading a think about of the task that we had just completed and how we might use this within our classrooms. So that distributed leadership. One of the biggest things is collaboration Mondays and how that comes into play for us. There is one Monday a month that we dedicate to nothing but talking about thinking classrooms. So when I get calls from other school districts, what are you doing differently in Prescott to be able to get the academic and growth results that we see? 1, it's Collaboration Monday, but 2, even more deeper than that, is how are we using Collaboration Monday? And the fact that we pause the district every Monday for 90 minutes to allow our staff, K-12, to be able to work together on things such as thinking classrooms is amazing. We are in, I believe it's year 5 now of doing that. It's become standard practice for us. And we're not the only district that does this. There's a number of districts on the east coast of Wisconsin that do this. But it's new to Western Wisconsin. We're one of the leaders in this, of having a 90-minute everyone out of the building, so that way we as the adults can focus on the learning of the adults as well. We spend so much time in education talking about the learning of the students, but that is second to the learning of the adults, so they can change that learning experience for our students. So appreciate the community for supporting that. We know it's a hardship on families to have that early 90 minutes out every week, but the benefits that we see from it far outweigh those, and we always work with families to help problem solve issues we may have with daycare and things like that. These are some of the quotes from our actual teachers in the Prescott School District about using thinking classrooms in those practices within their classroom. Here's, and the picture doesn't necessarily match the level where the quote came from, but here a teacher's talking about how they can see where students were getting stuck in their thinking a lot easier than in a traditional classroom. And again, part of that is because they're collaborating in small groups. You can hear the thinking, that visible learning that we're looking for. So that way that informs the teacher of what to do next. And we're not waiting to the end of a class and doing an exit ticket, or even the next day when they bring in their homework and, geez, half the class didn't understand what I taught yesterday. Now I have to scramble to redesign my lesson. It's in the moment we're redesigning our lesson, and the students are really driving where the learning is going. Another one here, there's no students opting out of instruction. A lot of the research shows how much time students spend mimicking the teacher, right? Or doing off-thinking tasks. When, again, the teacher turns their back and we're passing notes. We're getting up to sharpen our pencils. We're getting up to go use the restroom. We're not seeing that when we get kids up to the whiteboards and working together in a group. They're engaged. They're there. They're talking about whatever the task is for maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, that they are truly engaging in that learning, where that may not have been the case in a traditional classroom, and it was hard to tell. Conversations that flow are incredible was one of the comments that we had. Another one, and I think this one I pulled out because it spoke to me as well, is that building thinking classrooms has brought back life into my classroom and into me. So we're changing the experience of our teachers as well by diving into thinking classrooms and having more of the onus, more of that cognitive load on the students versus always on the teachers. What that then leads to is our academic success, right? We're small in size, but we're big in achievement. Over the years, we've been number one now. This was last year's results. We are number one in the Middle Board Conference in achievement, in target growth outcomes, and that's our bottom quartile of students. So our lowest 25th percentile of performing students from the previous year get tracked. And then what did they do compared to their peers? So we're number one in that group, and then we're number one in overall student growth as well. So it's really difficult to be a triple threat district where sometimes you're really high in achievement, but you don't have that growth. So we're high in achievement and we're closing the gaps that we do have, and we're not forgetting our lowest kids. It's not the haves and the have-nots. It's we are putting the fire trucks in the right place and we're getting the support we need to those lower kids. And they might not be on track this year, but they're on a trajectory to get them there over multiple years in some cases. So number one, Middle Board Conference. We look broader, we look at the state. We're top 10 in overall academic achievement as a school district in the state of Wisconsin. Last year, we were top 8 in that student growth category. So again, the overall growth, we're better than 92% of school districts in the state. And then that lowest quartile of kids, top 6%. So 94% of districts in the state, their lowest kids are not growing as quickly as they are here in Prescott. So that speaks a lot to the health of the overall system, but then also the fact that in Prescott we care about the whole child. A student who is in crisis, a student who does not have nutrition at home or food insecurities are not going to be able to perform at these levels. So kids are getting supported in many different ways, and most of the needs are getting met. Doesn't mean that we don't have work to do. We definitely do. But it's just reaffirming of all the work that we have done here in Prescott and some of the things that we have done, including the sacrifice of our community of that early out 90 minutes on Mondays. Here are the results. This is what you're getting for that investment. And that's all I have on that, unless we have some questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Michael? Excellent job, Michael. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to facilities. We have a referendum update.
One sec as I change over here. So as you know, in 2022, the school district passed a referendum. And this year we've kind of wrapped up a lot of that work. Malone Elementary had the HVAC vestibule unit installed for heating and cooling the vestibule. Numerous faucets and shutoff valves were replaced in classrooms. Some of our near future needs, there are 2 outside doors that are frankly old enough that they're starting to rust that we need to replace. It would be good to replace the flooring in 5 of our classrooms at Malone Elementary. And eventually, somewhere between 2029 and 2034, we'll need to replace the roof on the gym and the 1988 classroom wing. And that's looking at roughly $400,000 in cost. At the intermediate school, this summer we had restroom exhaust fans replaced and the gym ceiling fans installed. Future needs a little bit closer, as early as next year, 2026, or between then and 2031, we need to replace a large section of the main roof, which would cost around $550,000 in today's money. Also, the gym really needs to be stripped down, sanded to bare wood, and repainted. That's roughly $25,000 for a gym of that size. At the middle school, we did quite a bit more work. The restroom partitions were replaced in 5 of the bathrooms, updated. The kitchen grease trap and steam drain line were replaced. This doesn't seem like a big thing, but the kitchen is kind of near the middle of the building, and without replacing that, we weren't going to have any food. Required quite a bit of concrete floor demo, plumbing, and tile replacement. The main line to the chiller unit, piping was replaced. A chiller unit is basically our air conditioner. The gym divider curtain was replaced with a power curtain. And coming up here in the next month, we're going to replace the existing gym bleachers and salvage the wood from the old bleachers. And R5 is going to use that for some of their projects. The future need there is seal coating the parking lot. After we install the new bleachers, we're going to have around $620,000. That's going to remain in Fund 49. It's approximate because some of our bills are still being settled. Some of the work was done recently as 3 weeks ago. But this $620,000 from the 2022 referendum, most of that is interest that we earned on the referendum, and then that would be spent on these projects at any of these 3 buildings. Does not include the high school, because the high school was new in 2016. We are in the process of upgrading our weight room equipment through Fund 21. Matt Smith is working on that. A couple of future needs coming up in the next couple of years. The 4 domestic water heaters that are in the building are set to come due for replacement between 2026 and 2029. And also coat the parking lot probably in 2028. The other thing we're doing with our facilities as part of a facility update, and we talked about this a lot at the last school board meeting, we're looking at possibly consolidating one of our schools. In Wisconsin, schools have had declining enrollment of over 6.1% over the last 4 years. This is our enrollment from 2021. We had 1,349 students. 2022, we had 1,305. 2023, we had 1,310. 2024, we had 1,254. And 2025, this is unofficial, we're down to 1,196. That is not exactly the same as children in seats, because we include summer school in that, we include partial open enrollment. 4K kids only count as 0.6 of a kid. If you ever want details on that, stop by my office and it'll take me a good 20 minutes to explain it to you in detail. But these are the numbers that count for our enrollment as far as the DPI is concerned. As we presented at the last board meeting, September, October, we're going to get input from the district, from the administrative team. We're going to start looking at what the savings would be for closing a building. We're going to consult with the board about options for public input. We will have a couple public input ideas. You're going to see possible consolidation on the next several board agendas. November and December, we're going to start presenting plans to the board and the community. We'll get feedback from the board, from stakeholders, community workshops, surveys, etc. And we'll start, as we gather the cost-saving study, we'll start sharing those out. And then after that, as we get through that and we start finding a direction, if we're going to go in any direction at all, what the remodeling and moving costs would be. The big thing that we have to decide as a district is how much savings is worth closing a building, and even more importantly than that, what's the impact on student learning going to be? The impact on the other buildings, what's our classroom space like, gym space like? If we do close a building, what do we do with it? Do we sell it? If we sell it, do we lease a gym back to us? Because our gyms are used for community ed. Could we use it as district office space, rent it out to a different organization? Could we mothball it or partially mothball it? What's their flexibility going to be for space if our enrollment increases, et cetera? And we're also going to have to do a staffing savings study. We already have one contracted custodian that has been outsourced to a different company. What are some other things we could possibly save? So, and finally, what types of, if any, outside consultants do we bring in? Questions on our facility updates?
Does anybody have any questions here for Jim? And it includes board members too, by the way. Any board member can ask questions to him at this point. Does anybody have any questions? It's a quiet crowd tonight. Hopefully we have a lot of people watching online when the recording comes out. All right, that's an important topic. We'll have more on that in the upcoming months in our regular board meetings. We're going to move on to item 7, the presentation of the budget and budget hearing.
So Karen and I have worked together with consultation with Baird and our staff to present a balanced budget to the school board. Again, our funding is this year $12,654 per pupil, and that's based on a 3-year rolling average. Funding in Wisconsin is set by what school districts were spending in 1993. In 1994, the Wisconsin legislature decided that all funding would be based upon and only be able to increase based upon last year's numbers. Instead of coming up with an average, they just figured every school district in the state was frugal and appropriate with their last year's numbers, and that has been locked in place for 30 years now. Prescott in 2024 received $11,399 per student. Hudson receives $12,673 per student. Gibraltar and Washburn both had very large expenditures in 1993. So a student at the Gibraltar area school district was worth $24,657. Washburn, they're worth $28,818. So basically, if all the Prescott students got the Washburn money, we would have roughly 2.25 times the amount of money we currently have given to us from the state of Wisconsin. So all those school districts out there in black on that map, which you can get from the American Association of Equity and Funding, go to their website, has a great advantage over everybody else. The blues have a significant advantage. The dark greens, which is what Prescott is, have a slight advantage over the light greens, which are at the limit. So this is a major challenge for us. We receive only $74 more than the lowest funded district in the state of Wisconsin. That's $1,274 less than Hudson. I didn't update my numbers on this, I apologize, but it's roughly $1.6 million more if we just had the per pupil revenue that Hudson got. If you remember, there was a wonderful supportive $1.2 million referendum that the local taxpayers passed. I wasn't here then, but I'm pretty sure that if we had had this extra $1.6 million, that referendum never would have been brought up. Again, like Mr. Kozmowski talked about, despite the financial inequity, we're the highest academic performing district in the Middle Borders Conference. We regularly outperform Hudson and River Falls on statewide exams. Another thing the state did in its to try to balance out and provide some type of equity is that they, in 2008, as inflation was going up, they decided to decouple our state aid from inflation. So since 2008, school spending has not been allowed to increase with inflation. As you know, our buses run on diesel, our building gets heated with gas, we use electricity, salaries go up by inflation. The current number is, as of 2026, the graph only goes through 2024, but through 2025-26, $3,573 behind per student. So we're roughly $4.4 million behind in inflation since 2009. It's led to a lot of cuts in the district, but at the same time, we're still doing a great job educating our students. But that's another $4.4 million that the district would have to spend and not have to go to taxpayers if we just kept up with inflation. All this leads to the state of Wisconsin in 2015 starting to fall behind the national average. That light blue line there is Wisconsin. We used to, in 2004, spend $15,200 per student. The U.S. average was $13,575. Those numbers have now switched. The U.S. average is $16,526. Wisconsin is below average at $14,282. Again, those are 2023 numbers. Well, what about this current budget that was just passed? There is one budget for the whole state for general aid. So we compete with Racine, we compete with Madison, we compete with Green Bay, Milwaukee. Racine and Madison both passed very large referendums, which means they take extra money out of the general state aid. For the first time in 20 plus years this summer, the state did not add money to the general aid. The state has an estimated $5 billion in surplus right now. In 2024-2025, the fiscal year we just got done with, Prescott received $8.7 million in state aid. And next year we are predicted, again, everything doesn't come in until October 15th, to receive $7.8 million in state aid, which means the local taxpayers in Prescott are seeing a $964,317 cut in state aid, or an 11% cut. Again, all this is passed on to local taxpayers by the state legislature and Governor Evers. You hear a lot about Governor Evers' veto of $325 per pupil for 400 years. That does not mean we get extra money from the state. That means that we increase our spending authority. That kind of keeps us close to inflation, and you'll see in the next slide it doesn't keep us all the way up to inflation. And again, for the first time in 20 years, there was no matching state funds. So if you look at our number of per pupils, all that $412,100 is passed on to local taxpayers by the state legislature and Governor Evers. So when you hear them report $1.4 billion in increased money for students, it's all coming from local taxpayers around the state. Additionally, private school vouchers are funded by our taxpayers before any public school district receives any money. It depends upon the number of students in Prescott who live in Prescott who go to private schools and get vouchers. You notice that we went up $325 for public schools. It went up over $1,000 per student for voucher schools. This year in 2025, we will have a voucher hit of $53,679. That will be money taken away from Prescott School District to be sent to private schools. The inflationary increase last year, we get the 325. It would need to be 390 for 2 years ago, 404 for last year. Again, our base wages around the state of Wisconsin have gone up 8% and 4.2%. So the 325 is barely keeping us afloat. It is not saving us. And the way to think of taxes is think of it as a total bucket that can't get too high or can't get overfilled. If the state aid decreases like ours decreased by almost $1 million, the only way for the school district to keep all its programs is to tax that money locally and then add on top of that the $325 per student for an annual increase. Again, this is how the state has decided to fund school funding, including not keeping up with inflation, not adding money to the general aid, while sitting on a multi-billion-dollar surplus of taxpayer money that they've been sitting on for a long time. This is voted on by our local legislature, Senator Rob Strassfold, Representative Trig Prashnishki, I got to work on that name, and all signed into law by Governor Tony Evers. But this is the hand that the school district has been dealt, and we're going to use the hand we have to educate our students as best as possible. Long way of saying, all this is passing on to the local taxpayers. We are projecting our mill rate to be $8.15 per $1,000. That is a 38 cents per increase, up from $7.77 per $1,000. If you have a $200,000 house, you will have a tax increase of $76, a $300,000 house of $114, $400,000, $152, $500,000, $190. But that is all based on equalized state aid. Counties, CVTC, school districts have to work by law on equalized state aid, but that's not what your bill is going to look like. Okay, the theory behind that is equalized value ensures fairness between municipalities, and again, it's used for those shared taxes. Okay, it's the state adjusted value minus the tax apportionment amounts. But the city of Prescott, all the townships, they use assessed value. So things are going to change depending upon where your value is and where you live. The local assessor sets the value. It varies by municipality, and that's what's used to calculate your local taxes. So for the school district, based in 2024, Prescott City, the city of Prescott paid about 40% of this school district taxes. Oak Grove had about 34.7%, Clifton 19.45%. There's not much of Trimble in our school district, 1.9%, and Diamond Bluff 3.2%. When you combine those all out, they're all going to get slightly different mill rates. So the mill rate, again, is based on how much value is in your house, how much value is in, property value is in your specific district. Trimble and Clifton end up with higher assessed values versus the equalized values. So if you notice, the equalized value is technically the same for every single person, but there's going to be an added assessment amount for each individual township, municipality, city, etc., which is going to end up with a slight difference. Prescott will have a difference, an increase of $52.17. Oak Grove $128, Clifton $458, Trimble $530, and Diamond Bluff $19. A lot of that is in the city of Prescott is due to the tax increment districts. So they're all gonna vary. That's nothing that the city's doing different or your township is doing different. It's just basically the way the law is written, and how we can't directly translate equalized values to what your tax bill is actually gonna see. If anybody in the audience or watching on Friday has questions and wants to sit down with me or somebody from the city, and we can run your specific numbers as we need to. The other thing is everything we're giving you is an estimate. We've gotten our third Friday count estimated. The equalized property value doesn't get to the municipalities until October 1st, which allows us to start really finalizing that mill rate and levy. October 15th is when the voucher exemptions and the equalized aid is passed on to us. So we can't finalize these numbers till October 15th when we get everything from the state, which is why our October school board meeting will be on the 29th of October, where we'll adopt the final budget and approve the final levy. And then we report it to the DPI before November 4th, and we send the certified levy to the municipalities by the 10th. A couple noteworthy items in the budget that Kara's going to talk about. We have set aside $60,000 for a 6-month training period for a new director of building and grounds, with the goal to hire that person in January and let them work alongside of Mike Hoyka for 6 months. We have an estimated $1.8 million that we're going to transfer to special education, which comes from our general education Fund 10 and goes to special education, which is Fund 27. All this money is based on student IEP needs, which are federally insured and we are locked in on, and we can't just cut any of these programs. The state promised us 40%. We're looking at, when it's all said and done, we'll probably get between 30 to 35% of our special education funding reimbursed. Educator lobbies, before the last biennium, were lobbying hard for 60% plus. People told us to be happy at 40%. Right now, we're hearing predictions of right around 32% is what will actually be reimbursed, which is a step up from our 28%, but still not nearly enough to help us support our students who need the most help. We're going to have a contribution to Fund 46 to potentially offset construction sites or construction costs. This could be due to school closures, but it's also going to cover a lot of that stuff we talked about, especially the roofs that are never cheap. We have $50,000 earmarked for moving costs if we do end up closing a school, as well as a salary for the Director of Business Services accounted for in that money. You ready, Kara?
Okay, so this is the budget that was published, the 3-year comparison proposed for 25-26. You can see the audited numbers for 23-24. General fund and total school levy was a total of $10,350,998. Unaudited for 24-25, which I believe is potentially wrapped up now at this point. It won't be completely 100% approved with DPI until December, but those numbers were $11,488,711. And for the budget for this year, we've gone through and identified the numbers that we can estimate at this point. Still have numbers coming in that are changing and being updated daily. But right at this point, we estimate general fund budget for $8.490004. Referendum debt service fund is $3,426,553. Non-referendum debt service fund is $390,125, and community service fund is $225,000, which is the same as it was last year. We estimate the budget to be stable from last year to this year. And that would be a total school levy of $12,531,682. And this one here again shows that DPI requires districts use equalized property value. The city uses assessed property values. This means that each property by township will see a different taxed impact, and that's something that Jim had covered a little bit earlier here. And so you can see the percentages there of the increases that we are projecting at this point with the numbers that we currently have.
So again, a lot of that comes down to which municipalities have seen the most growth in the last year, and what their tax base is. We could be here for 6 hours if we wanted to break down every township. If anybody has any questions, call the school district. Karen and I will sit down with you and explain it. If we need to, we'll bring in Beth from the city to have a conversation with you.
So the levy for Prescott School District is estimated at $12,531,682. Operation Fund 10 would be $8,490,004. Property tax chargebacks are unknown at this time. They typically come in after January tax rolls go out. Non-referendum debt fund 38 is $390,125. Referendum debt service fund 3.426553 million. Community service fund, that's the 80s, is $225,000.
So that community service fund is the PCR and the community ed.
Then again, this shows the numbers that roll into the 25-26 school tax levy final numbers, or what we propose will be the final numbers. Total tax levy is $12,531,682.
Any questions from anybody?
Any questions, anyone? Can I bring up one point I want to make on the record here? If you go back to slide 7, that had impacts on Prescott funding, and it had the big number of 964,000 on it, right there. So that number, that 964 that was cut in state aid, was added to the local taxpayer general fund that Kara just pointed out on one of the first slides. Now, if you go back to the slide that compared the 3 years, the 3-year comparison, this slide right here from 2024, 25, 26, is that fair to say that was where the increase, because people are going to look at this and be like, why are we spending more money? Right?
It's the bulk of the impact.
It's because the state dropped funding by almost $1 million.
Yes.
That we are now asking the taxpayers locally in the Prescott School District to pick up.
That's correct.
It's not because we increased our spend by $1 million. It's because the state is taking away almost $1 million of the money that we had from last year.
And that's exactly what it is. It's a $940-some thousand cut. Our total levy is going up by just over $1 million, $1,056,000. So yeah, that little bit of difference is the 325 increase. But yeah, it's directly related to the cut in state aid. And that's a combination of declining enrollment and increased property values. If you want to lower, the lowest tax levy limit in the state of Wisconsin is Beloit, because their property values are so low and their poverty is so high. So.
Anybody have any questions or comments on this?
So when we talk about the bucket can only be so full, that bucket is still at that same level. We've just kind of shifted where who's got the bigger chunk.
The state took $1 million out of the bucket, so we had to put $1 million back in the bucket from local taxpayers.
Okay.
Or significantly cut programming.
All right, that was the point I wanted to make. Thanks, Kara. Anybody else have anything on this before we move on? That'll wrap up the presentation part of the meeting, and we're going to move into resolutions. So the first resolution is Resolution A, to adopt a tax levy. I think that if you wanted to go back to this slide. last slide, right? Or slide 21.
Come on. I actually clicked on the thing.
There it was. This one. So this is our first resolution to adopt the tax levy as presented on this screen for $12,531,682 as an estimate. It's not finalized, but as of now, and it'll be finalized in October.
And that 12,531,000 comes from the money broken down below. If you add up those 1 through 5, you get the top number.
So at this time, we can entertain a motion to accept the preliminary tax levy for 25-26 academic year.
I'll make a motion to accept the tax levy as presented on screen.
So we got one motion, we need a second.
The board can second.
Yeah, you guys-
I'll second.
Vicky seconded it, Courtney? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That one carries, thank you. Resolution A, now we're on Resolution B.
Do you want me to cover B and C?
Yes, please.
So by state law, the board members cannot vote on Resolution B. Salaries for the school board members. So last year, the salaries were as follows. The board president received $2,500. The vice president, clerk, treasurer, and member each received $2,200. So at this time, it is up to the people in the audience who are taxpayers of the Prescott School District to make a motion on how much they think the board president and members should make next year.
You say what other current amounts?
Board president is $2,500, vice president is $2,200, clerk, treasurer, and member are also $2,200. Those were increased last year, I believe, right, Courtney?
Last year, maybe even the year before.
Okay.
I move that the school board salaries for the school board members stays the same as last year, as presented, $2,500 for the board chair, and was it $2,200, Jim, for everyone?
For everybody else, yes.
Second.
Second. Josh seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution C, it is recommended that board members be reimbursed for actual expenses for out-of-district travel and conducting the business of the Board of Education. For clarification, the big expense for this is the Wisconsin Association of School Board conference, which is held every January and is highly valuable. That is the vast majority, if not all, of these expenses, and it's not a significant amount. So if there's no questions, we'd entertain a motion to reimburse them for the actual expenses for traveling out of district and conducting the business of the school board.
Make a motion to reimburse expenses.
Motion by Josh, second. Second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Lastly, we have a Resolution D for setting the annual meeting date. Usually what we've done in the past is allow the school board to set that date and time at a later date when we have a clearer picture of what the audit, of what the budget's gonna look like following the audit.
It just has to be the board that would stand.
Right, so if one were to make a motion to allow, it would be to allow the school board to set a date and time for the 2026 annual board meeting before the third Wednesday of October.
I move to give the board permission to set the date for the annual meeting when they are, but before the statutory requirement of the third Wednesday in October.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Courtney, you got all that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries as well. Thank you, and I think we are now on motion to adjourn.
You want to put that, let them know that note?
Okay, yes, just as a side note, the next board meeting is scheduled, the regular October board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 29th, so we're pushing it back a couple of weeks in honor of trying to make sure that we have everything buttoned up for the annual budget to present the final numbers. So that's, yes. That's all I can say about that. So we could take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Come on, don't all jump at once.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Well done.